Welcome to the breakdown with Jon B. It is 11/8/2021, and this is the One DFS Breakdown. I'm here to hang out and talk DFS with you guys. It's something I enjoy doing. It's been an interesting weekend. Things went okay and things went less okay, depending on the sport, I suppose. Let me see, Saturday. Saturday, I'm trying to think. I don't think Saturday was a total loss. I think it was more like I just didn't quite get back what I wanted to. Sunday, I had football and I did well at football. I couldn't complain about that. That's not normally my deal, but I can't complain when there's money coming back from that. And then again, last night, I almost did well. I think if I'd had one more money lineup in the big one, I probably would have done better. But I got enough back to make it worth it. We had a good time playing. We didn't lose inordinate amount of money, inordinate amounts of money, which is always good, I guess. So, but I think today's 8 games. I might be wrong on that, but I think it's 8 games. I'll have to double check. We'll break it down. I don't think that we have to be in too much of a hurry. There's some, or I don't think we have to be, too sort of. I don't think we need to perseverate too much on some teams, is what I mean to say. But we'll try to go. Eight games we can get through fairly quickly. There's going to be some matchups where I'm just meh about it, and that's how it works. So I think what we'll do is we will do the very best we can. Hit the like button, the subscribe button. I can use all the subs I can get. No reason really. I'm going to do this anyway, whether I'm talking to 5 people, to 50 people, to 50,000 people, or to nobody. So I'm wearing my what has become known as the DFS sweatshirt because I always have it on during this show. Because I'm in my office and it's a little chilly, and it's my favorite sweatshirt, so I've been wearing it a lot, especially in Minnesota where it's been decently fall-like weather, so it's been cold enough to need a hoodie, although I'm still wearing shorts. Don't ask. It just is what it is. Be happy. But moving forward, I think we're going to take a look now. Let me get myself slotted up here in this here corner. Bang. You know what I didn't look at? I didn't look at naming standards today. We're getting so close on the naming standards being totally done, like without needing to add anybody. I think most of the players that I have listed that show NA are just injuries. And I'm just going to take a quick mental note here. Congo has not played. Of who I got. Is that right? Has Ellington played 2 games now? Let's see if I have him here. So let's go. Whoops. Control F. So let's see. Ellington. Sorry, I should have done this in advance, but yeah, it looks like he's in the data now. So let me get his name added because I don't think he's added in the naming standards. Just meaning that that his name won't show up because I don't have his name listed as a potential player in here. So the way it works is everybody has players named their own thing, and so you have to have a naming standard in order to pull information from different sources. And my sources have their names one way, Fanduel has their names the other way, and I have to make a list. Even if it's the same, I got to put in input Wayne Ellington, output Wayne Ellington. They're not junior, they're not third, they don't have special characters. They still have to be in that list in order to be recognized. So we should come back here now, find Wayne Ellington, and then you can see right here his information has populated. So that is good, and then I found out he played games by right here. Now, if that number is high, you can assume higher than there are games played, you can assume it was from last season or from preseason. So, or if it's empty like that, you can assume it's nothing. They might be a rookie. This one gets me. Dumboya. Has he played? Is that one game him playing, or is that like a preseason thing? Seku. Well, let's check here. There it is. He is there. Okay, so let's add him. Spelling this is something else. Let's see. No, see, that doesn't work. I'm going to have to come back to this like 3 times. I'm going to guess. That's not even close. It's not even close. Whatever. Let's have fun with it. NBA ref. D-O-U-M-B-O-U-Y-A. D-O-U-M-B-O-U-Y-A. D-O-U-M-B-O-U. I got close. I got close there, you guys. Let's see. And then that should populate whatever he had. There it is. 8 minutes. Woot woot. Can't believe that worked. Didi Luzada has data now. Lewis King. Still no data. I think those 6 games are preseason or something because as far as I know, no Lewis King listed. So that's one of those ones that gets me. No Samanek. No whoever this guy is. Oh, Damian Jones has played, but is he a junior? Control fine. Let's go Jones. No junior. Just regular old Damian Jones. So let's get him added here. You know, I would hate to come across him and then not have any information, you know? So I think the right thing to do is to get these names updated before you start. That way, yep, populated, no problem. Let's see, Scotty Lewis, no. Simonovic, no. Kessler, Edwards, no. Alvarado, it says 2 games, but I think this is one of those things where that's not true either. Alvarado, plus I think I put him in here. Maybe not. So let's check here. Okay, all right. He's played a little. Jose Alvarado. Name that team, I guess, right? I mean, we can just look, but... Now he should be in the model. Yep, there he is, 3.5 minutes. So every time I repopulate this, I'm like finding, oh, hey, this guy finally played a minute. Did Metu really play 1 minute? Is that real? Not on my naming standard. He might be here. This comes from Basketball Reference. Chimezie Metu. There it is, 1 minute. All right, we better get him added. Don't want to miss out on that 1 minute. Right, guys? All right, let's see if that worked. It did not. Chimezie. Did I spell it wrong? Yes, I did. Right here. Miss on the E. Now it should be there. Sure is. 3 minutes. Okay. Kobe White, we know is hurt. Dario Saric, we know is hurt. Tyler Cook, we know is out. Let's see. Pons, no. Jay Huff. It says 1 minute. It says 1 minute. Is that real? Is that real? Let's find out. Unbelievable. There he is. Get him added. Uh-oh, I got like an apostrophe. No reason either. Just a bad typer. Bad typist. There's his 8 minutes. Grant Riller. Knee. Okay. Jemias Ramsey. Nope. Woodard. Nope. Devin Dotson. Nope. Hey, all right. So we're up to date there on the naming standards, you guys. Sometimes you got to go through and make sure you got your players in. Otherwise you're not given good information. Yeah, I don't know. I hate that they put a salary on Kyrie Irving. Like, we know he's not going to play. Why is he not at the bottom with the NA there? Why even give him a salary? Makes no sense. Forgive me, I need some Gatorade from all the athletics I've been doing in the last... I haven't done any. I'm lying. Okay, anyway. It just is what it is. It's not like he's injured. He's just not going to play. That is what it is. All right, you guys, let us look at some important things. I'm going to refresh my injury report because it's always getting updated. I'm going to refresh my potential starting lineups. Okay. We're going to come over here. We're going to look at daily lines. We're going to start with the Knicks at Philly. They're the first on the list. 7 p.m. Eastern. I think that's the early game. Knicks at Philly, unselect. New York, Philadelphia. This one has some big injury news too, guys. If you haven't seen, Embiid is out. He has now entered the COVID protocols and probably will miss, they said, as much as 10 days. So no Embiid. That's going to make this a Drummond night. I mean, you're going to have Andre Drummond because he's going to go bananas. It'll be a pace down spot for him, but he is who he is, big stats. Big stats are big stats are big stats, right? So, but starting with New York, the line on this one, 213.5. I think that's probably lower than it could be. Knicks are dogs in this one. That might not be reflecting the injury news. Andre Drummond is starting. We'll go down to Philly and see if there's any extraneous news that we have missed or don't know about. Thibault in protocols out indefinitely. Isaiah Joe in protocols out indefinitely. Danny Green day-to-day. He might play. Green's participation in shoot-around could mean that he's in line to give it a go. That was for Monday, though. So what day is it today? What day is it? Monday? All right. It's Monday. So I'm yelling at nobody. If he played at shoot-around, then there's likelihood that they'll need him to go. Toby is, health and safety protocols still ruled out. Of course, we know about Simmons and Riller. This is a real interesting thing. Danny Green with the Q tag. Who's going to start if he doesn't? And we'll take a look at Philly a little closer after we're done with New York. Let's look at New York's injuries real quick here because I'm skipping all around. Mitchell Robinson listed as questionable. Q tag. Both questionable. Nerlens and him both questionable. Both played Sunday's game against Cleveland where they combined for 8 blocks in the front end of the back-to-back. Given both of the injury history in recent years, you have to think the Knicks might be wanting to give them some rest. Taj Gibson, Obi Toppin could see increased playing time. We'll keep an eye on that. I'm not going to play a bunch of Mitchell Robinson anyway, but, you might be interested in, Obi Toppin, like they said, if you're going to get, or Taj Gibson, if they're going to get a bunch of minutes. But you're going to have to see minutes. Probably Taj, really. Starting lineup for New York, Kemba, Evan Fournier, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson. I really thought, Kemba was out there. Kemba will play. As far as I know. Actually, you know what? It says Kemba Walker sidelined. That's what I thought. Tom Thibodeau. I can't talk, you guys. Seriously, Monday. Tom Thibodeau did not guarantee that Kemba Walker would be available for Monday's game, it says. The assumption was that he was simply being rested, with it being the first half of a back-to-back, but that may not be the case, with Thibodeau offering no guarantee that Walker will be available Monday night. Derrick Rose, who made a spot start yesterday, and Emmanuel Quickley, potential fantasy impact. So Kemba's listed right now in the starting lineup. Tibbs not saying, he might not play. That's Tibbs being Tibbs. But keep an eye on it. You never know what's going to happen. I probably wasn't going to play much for Kemba anyway. But I am interested in potentially playing Derrick Rose or Quickley again if they are going to start. Fournier is a guy I don't get to. Barrett, Randall, Robinson. So that's the starters. Looking at Julius Randle, he is who he is. He's still a pay-up option at $9,500. Anytime you can get a pay-up option for under $10,000, I'm in on that. I'll have a good percentage of Julius Randle. 36.8 minutes per game, 45.68 fantasy points per game so far, and 1.24 fantasy points per minute. Value 4.8x is close. So if that's a baseline, it's going to be easier for him to get to 6 or 7x. Which is genuinely or generally what we're after. RJ Barrett's a guy I have been playing, but $6,400 is okay. 34.8 minutes is why you play him. His 0.81 fantasy point per minute doesn't, ring any bells for me, I guess. I mean, a lot of times I play him because he's sort of underplayed. But you can get similar production for $1,100 cheaper out of Fournier. 30.8 minutes, 25.2 fantasy points per game, 0.82. Value is higher, 4.75x. In this matchup, you might want to get to some Fournier today. Just looking at it. Yeah, why not? He's starting, right? Okay. Mitchell Robinson, we just talked about, $5,300. That price is good. He's got a Q tag right now, so you're going to want to keep an eye on that. 0.90 fantasy points per minute. That's not great. Against Drummond, who knows? Drummond's going to have a big game, I think. I hope. Always liked that guy. Kemba's cheap, $4,800. So if he is starting, this guy's ceiling is ridiculous. But in Tibbs' system, I'm not sure he's set up to have a 50-point fantasy night. I'll get to 10 or 12% of him just to make sure, because I don't want to be on the outside looking in on a $4,800 50-point night. But if Derrick Rose starts, I'll get to some Derrick Rose, a 1.05 fantasy point per minute guy. His usage is through the roof. For a bench guy, he's almost 5x value. You're going to need to get to him. If Robinson's out, you got to look at Nerlens. $4,500 is cheaper than dirt. He's a fantasy point per minute guy, 1.03. 5.4x value on Nerlens. So if you're going to need, I mean, realistically, I mean, if I'm looking at this, even if Mitchell Robinson is in, well, you know, Nerlens listed injured. Of course, here I'm talking about somebody. That always happens to me. That's why I'm always wondering. It's the second leg of back-to-back. No one's feeling some discomfort in his lower back, so we might skip this one. Knowing Thibodeau, we won't get official word until just before tip-off. So it's one of these. If Nerlens goes and Robinson doesn't, you're going to have to play a bunch of Nerlens. I mean, he's a 1.03 fantasy point per guy for cheap. Even if Mitchell Robinson plays and Nerlens is in, you might want to get some Nerlens anyway, just as a value play. Taj is who he is. Love him. Doesn't get the minutes. He's a good guy. Good player. Getting old. Real old. But again, if Mitchell Robinson is out, you're going to have to probably get to some. Maybe a little Obi Toppin. You never know what's going to happen there. So keep your eye on the news. The closer to lock we'll get. Tibbs is who he is too. So in this matchup, that's what I'm doing. I'm going Randall. Probably Fournier. And then again, just the injury stuff we talked about. If so-and-so was out, then play the other guy. I mean, that's all there is to it. Let's look at Philly. This is interesting, too. We went over their injuries early because I skipped ahead. Thibault, Isaiah Joe. This needs to be refreshed, I think. It's interesting because when someone goes on the page that I use for injuries, if someone goes on the COVID protocols, you don't always find them on the injury report. I find it right here. Joel Embiid enters. Okay, Monday night was planned for rest anyway, but he'll now miss several games after entering the health and safety protocols. All that whole Philly team's going to be out before you know it. He played last night, too, so half the team, whoever he played last night's going to have to probably quarantine, too. And the whole thing is a mess. Oh, whatever. What we do know, starting lineup, Maxey, Curry, Danny Green with the Q-Tang, Georges Niang, Georges, I don't know, Niang, and then Drummond. You know what I'm going to say? You know, with Embiid out, honestly, Embiid's price is totally crazy at $9,300. But with him out, and no Simmons and no Tobias Harris, this is a weird team, man. But you're going to need to get tons and tons of Andre Drummond. I mean, like, I'm going to have him probably like 70% of my lineups, and so is everybody, and that's why you got to have him. You could look for a contrarian play, but at 5,500, you know, are you going to get 50 fantasy points from another guy at 5,500? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what to do there. I mean, as we're building, we'll look, but for me, number one play of the day is Drummond. Get some Niang also. Heck, get some Korkmaz for sure if he's in. If he's in, let me double check because I just keep putting my foot in my mouth on injuries today. Yeah, if Korkmaz is in, then you got to play him. Yeah, I mean, just going down the list here. Milton or Maxey. I guess it depends. I mean, Maxey gets 10 more minutes, but Milton is a much better producer. Puts up about the same number of fantasy points per game and a much higher fantasy point per minute on 10 less minutes. It's hard to ignore. Yeah, it's just very, very interesting. So for me, I'm going to be Milton over Maxey, but I'll probably get a little Maxey anyway. I think the reason Maxey ends up being more expensive is just because he is starting, gets the minutes. Doesn't produce, though. 0.77. That does me nothing. It's crazy. It's crazy time. So in this one, I'm going to get a bunch of Milton. I'm going to get some Drummond. I'm going to get a little Seth Curry. I'm going to get Niang and Korkmaz. And then I'll probably come back and get some Maxey in the end. I mean, I'm going to have a bunch of players in this game. Even though the score, 213.5, is uninspiring, these guys are going to I think that they're going to have to run a little faster. Even though it's a pace down spot for the Knicks. Yeah, I'm going to get a bunch of Philly. The usage, Joel Embiid's usage is like 32.6%. And that's got to go somewhere. Tobias Harris's usage was 24.7. So there you got 57.3% of the usage that's off the floor. At least 57.3% of the usage when they're together. So you take that off the floor, these other guys are going to have to produce more, right? That's just my take. So get a bunch of Philly and a bunch of Julius Randle and all that stuff. And we'll have a good time. Maybe we'll win. Maybe we won't. All right, you guys. Brooklyn at Bulls is next. First, I got to get these New York added back in. The game. Brooklyn at Bulls. Yes. Yes. Okay. Then we're going to start with Brooklyn. I feel like I'm starting with the backwards team today. It's weird. Let's look at injuries here. Sorry, I've got 3 screens going, you guys. I probably could use a 4th or a 5th or maybe like 3 more screens. I don't know. But so I'm kind of back and forth if you see me kind of looking at new data and injury reports and so forth. And you can only see the middle one. So that is what it is. Probably I should work it out so I can switch back and forth so you can see all of them as I'm doing it. Like this will switch and so forth, but I just haven't got there yet. I've been streaming now. I think this is week 3. So, but I've been playing DFS since 2013. So that's why I decided to do this because it's fun. Good time. I mean, I've been playing a long time. I might as well have fun and share it with people. Still just Claxton and Irving on the list. Nothing crazy there. Starting lineup, James Harden, Joe Harris, Kevin Durant, Bruce Brown. At power forward, it says, but who knows what's real there or not. Blake Griffin, probable. Kevin Durant, probable. So, we'll keep them in. We'll pretend that they're going to play. Why do I have Chicago on my screen right now? Because I hit opponent, didn't I? Yep, that's why. I'm going to leave that. Then we're going to go to team. Brooklyn. That's better. That's better. You never know, guys. You never know. It's Monday. It is what it is. Kevin Durant, $10,500. 34.9 minutes, so 35 minutes per game. 48.02 fantasy points per game, or 1.38 fantasy points per minute. 32.5% usage. I mean, this is a guy, no matter who the matchup is, you're going to have to get a little bit of because he's got that capability. He's one of those guys that's like, you don't want to be on the outside looking in at 75 points, do you? Going to be tough. I mean, with Harden on the floor, it'll be hard for him to get there, but those two guys can definitely go positive 40. I mean, it's likely that one would get between 50 and 60 if the other one got 40. So, fantasy points. So that is what it is. You're going to have to get to some James Harden. I like the matchups against Chicago for him. Or, I mean, for Kevin Durant. Not known for their... I mean, DeRozan is a good defender. Vucevic not known for his defense, obviously. I like Harden, 9,600. I like Harden better than Durant here, and that's because anytime you have a pay-up option, one of these guys that can get you 60 or 70, anytime you have that for under 10 grand, you gotta think, okay, how do I work that? 34 minutes, 42.39, 1.24 fantasy points per minute, usage is 27.3. You're going to need some Harden. Again, maybe not tons, but definitely get some. At 9,600, I like that price. Aldrich, 19.6 minutes. He's a 1.14 fantasy points per minute guy, and you love to see that. But 19 minutes a game doesn't do anything for me. Doesn't do a darn thing for me for Aldrich. $4,800 does. So if you think he's going to get 24 minutes, then for sure at 4,800, that's something to look at. So keep your eye open. Keep your eyes open. We know who Patty Mills is. He's cheap, 4,200, 25. I would say 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I mean, Patty Mills was like in every one of my lineups as that sort of squeaker. He's just, I need 18 or 20 fantasy points from somebody, and, the rest is a stud's crazy lineup, and you need the cheap one. So this year, not so much. 0.72 per minute is not inspiring. Bruce Brown's $4,200 salary, I like a little better. 25.9 minutes, a little more. He produces a little more, 18.73 fantasy points per game on the exact same usage per minute, 0.72. So if I have to pick, Bruce Brown at least is in the starting lineup. So that's where I'm going out of those two if I have to. As a value play, if you think, hey, maybe he'll get 30 minutes, or maybe there'll be foul trouble on someone else, then you can look at that for sure. Joe Harris is a guy you love to love, and it's hard to hate him. But at $4,200, sorry, my dog's barking. I think I'm getting a package delivered. $4,200, 0.59 fantasy points per minute, you guys. We'll let that sink in for a second. 0.59. That's tough. That's really tough. It's really bad for a guy. And this is a guy who's supposed to shoot the lights out. He gets over 31 minutes a game. 18 fantasy points. You just can't get to him. Unless you know he's starting and he is starting. That's the thing. He is starting. So unless you know, minutes mean nothing if you're not producing. 18 points a game? I get why, but it's not a guy you can go to very often, right? Just my take. I don't know. Claxton out. Griffin starting but not producing, still 0.8. 22 minutes is, again, almost 23 minutes, I guess. Uninspiring. Talk to me when he's getting 30 minutes. His knees won't hold up if he gets that. But 0.8 per minute. You're really just looking at Durant and Harden. Harden over Durant in this one. Everything else would be dependent on somebody like getting a huge boost. You can look at Bruce Brown for some value because you'll know he'll get the minutes. That's it. And there's not anybody else to look at on Brooklyn. It's kind of sorry. Especially from a team who's supposed to be a real competitor, and they don't have a chance. Sorry, guys. Sorry, New York. I have no chance. I think the Knicks have a better chance. But who knows about that either. Probably neither one of them are real contenders in my mind. But it doesn't matter. We're here for DFS. So, let's look at Chicago, you guys. I'm going to look at their injuries. Pat Williams out indefinitely. Kobe White, December. That's it. Starting lineup, Lonzo Ball, Javonte Green. Zach LaVine is in. DeMar DeRozan. Vucevic. I think you're going to need a bunch of these players. I think this game's going to be closer than people think. The Vegas line has it at 216 combined total, with Chicago actually being the favorites in this one. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. I like that. So I'm not a big Lonzo Ball guy, but let's talk about the team. DeMar DeRozan, 8,500. Again, pay up option. He's a type player. He can put up 50 for sure. Fantasy points. 1.21 per minute, 30% usage. 5x value. Oh, I must have had a package. That must have been my package. Delivery. So, DeRozan, I don't mind that. Depending on who's guarding him, I guess. That could be tough because Kevin Durant is so long. But get to him anyway. Zach LaVine's 8,000. Another guy that can put up 50. These prices are crazy. Yep. LaVine is only averaging 39.27 fantasy points per game on 1.11 fantasy points per minute. But his ceiling is high. His ceiling is high. You only need his average 39.25, less than his average to get value out of him, and anything 48 or above is a boom. So I'm going to need to get to some LaVine tonight. Vucevic, I feel the same way. 7,700 is ridiculously low. Here's another guy who can put up 35 or 40 fantasy points and a half. Has some pretty slow third quarters sometimes, based on what I remember. But 1.08 fantasy points per minute. You're going to need Vucevic today. I don't know what. Blake Griffin's too old and slow to do a dang thing about it. So, yeah, that's where I'm going. Those three guys, for sure. Lonzo at 5,900, 0.89 per minute, again, uninspiring. He does hit his value because his price is so low. So it's not like you couldn't get to him. I think I like where Alex Caruso's been going, too. Still only 0.84, but I think that's up from the first week or two. And $4,500 salary, he gets 28 minutes. So if he can get closer to a fantasy point per minute, getting 26, 27, 28 fantasy points for 4,500, you're going to need, you're going to need to look at some of that. For sure. Patrick Williams is out, so that doesn't matter. There's really nobody else to talk about on this team. Realistically, just those top three guys. I'm probably getting more LaVine and Vuce than I am DeRozan, but I'll probably get all three of them. Okay, game 2 done. All right, let's look at the next game. Minnesota at Memphis. Not sure what to expect here. They have the total at 217. I bet it's more like 260. I don't know. I don't know, you guys. Seriously, I don't know what to do with my Timberwolves lately. The defense is there. They're shooting like 23%. If some of those shots went down, we'd be winning every game by 30. That's just not the case. Not yet. Will it happen? Who knows? Minnesota sports. If you're not named the Lynx, you're not good at sports. Just how it is. Let's look at Minnesota first. For fantasy, I get to a bunch of Timberwolves regardless of whether they're winning games or not. Just makes sense. I think D'Angelo Russell has a Q tag on him, but I think he's back tonight. Naz Reid listens day to day. There's no information about him. D'Angelo Russell looks like he'll practice. Final word after shoot around. If he's out, Patrick Beverly benefits to fill in, of course. So if D'Lo doesn't come back, then you got to get to some Pat Bev. I've been doing that the last few nights. And even off the bench, Pat Bev has been producing. He's been a fantasy point per minute guy. D'Angelo Russell with the Q tag in the starting lineup as of now. Anthony Edwards, Torian Prince, Jaden McDaniels, and Cat. Carl's 10,100. That's low for me, and it's because again he's one of these ceiling guys whose ceiling is 60, 70 plus. I know one day he got well into the 90s. I don't know, 3-4 years ago. That was insane. I mean, I get to Cat no matter what. I'm gonna have 25% Cat regardless of matchup. It doesn't even matter. Steven Adams can't do anything with Cat. That's a fact. So, it is what it is. I guess we'll see. Although I do like, because Cat's defense isn't, great always. I do like Steven Adams tonight too. Yeah, I don't know. Anthony Edwards, 1.1 fantasy points per minute. Basically 5x value from him, 35 minutes plus. 7,900 is a good price from him. He's more like an $8,500 player if these price tags weren't all that broken. D'Lo at 7,300. I'm a little worried because he's coming back from an injury. I'll get to a small percentage of him, but I worry that he's going to top out 23 or 24 minutes tonight. He's only averaging 28 anyway. Excuse me, a little gas there. He's basically a fantasy point per minute guy. His value's been low. His cost has been high. I'll probably get some Pat Bev at 4,800 regardless of whether he starts, but he's a fantasy point per minute. He's the only one on the team right now averaging 5x value or better. Malik Beasley's ceiling is mid-30s, I think. But 26 minutes a game lately, and a reason is because D'Lo's been out. So, is what it is. I like Jaden McDaniels, but if you're going to get a bunch of fantasy points from him, it's going to come in the form of stocks. 14.8 fantasy points per game. That was pretty uninspiring at 0.59. There's nothing to really talk about there. I like Naz Reid if he was getting 28 minutes, because he's a 1.19 fantasy points per minute guy, but he gets 14 and a half minutes. I just would like to see more of him out there. I put him next to Cat. I don't care. But, even in that limited time, he's putting up decent numbers for the time he's getting. He's just not getting the time. There's a bunch of players on this team that probably deserve to play that aren't getting any time. And it's tough because you got your big 3 or 4, and you just need to get them in. Minnesota big 3 or 4 for us. You get what I mean. So I'm going to play Cat. I'm going to play more Edwards and Cat. I'm going to play less D'Angelo Russell. And I'll probably have maybe 15% of Pat Bev just for the heck of it. Let's get Memphis. To me, this is a team you'll get a bunch of. Or maybe not. I don't know. I like Ja. There's a pay-up option for 9,100. 44 points per game. Fantasy points. 1.28 per minute. That's a place you can go. Jaren Jackson, 1.07 fantasy points per minute on 26 minutes. The minutes aren't great. Steven Adams, again, 25.7 minutes. If he was getting 32, I'd be much higher on him. But again, he's a 1.01 fantasy point per minute guy. So all those guys are good. Melton, I'll probably have more Melton than any of those other guys. Morant and then Melton. 28.1 minutes per game. 26.9 fantasy points per game, 0.96 fantasy points per minute, averages 5.3x value, 5.38. So you can't feel bad about that. Get to a bunch of Melton. His price tag at 5,000. His ceiling is okay. You only need, what do you need? 27 out of him? Melton, 33. 33. No, that's a boom. You only need 28 out of him. So, you could look at Melton as filling in some spots. I like Desmond Bane, too. More minutes. A little less production, for sure. But again, you only need 28 out of him. Both of those guys are 5x value or higher. So that's something to think about. A lot of people like Kyle Anderson. His points per minute are coming up. 4.5. His minutes are not at 21.9. When that's 26, then we can talk about Kyle Anderson. Nobody else really here to mention that, any one of these guys can shoot the lights out one game a year. It is what it is. Let's look at injuries. Killian Tilly, Zaire Williams. We know about Dylan Brooks. Morant, Melton, Bane, Jackson Jr., Steven Adams. That's their starting lineup on that one. I don't know. Feel good about getting to some of those guys. I think that's one of those games like the Timberwolves Clippers the other day was listed. I think it was 213 or 214. And it ended up being 270. So This might be one of those games where 217 is not 217. So, I mean, it's an indicator for sure, but how accurate is it? I don't know. Maybe in the long run, yeah, maybe in the long run it is, but realistically, maybe it's not. I don't know. Okay, the next game is New Orleans at Dallas. It's a fun one. I expect Dallas to win. Dallas are heavy favorites. We'll start with Dallas. Let's look at injuries for Dallas. They've been one of those teams that hasn't had much for injuries. Just Kleba, sideline, targeting November 9th through 12th return. So that's sometime this week, apparently, but probably not tonight. I haven't heard anything about that. There's literally no updated information on that. So, looking at Dallas, you have Luka, Tim Hardaway, DFS, Porzingis, and Dwight Powell. Tons of guys on the starting lineup of this team that I can't trust, and that hurts. Hurts bad. Real bad. You know, Luka's Luka. He's transcendent. 1.31 fantasy points per minute. You know, his ceiling is like, I don't know, 980,000, something like that. He does what he does. You know, you got to have 47.5 out of him, just above what he averages. In a matchup like this, you're going to likely get it unless it's like a huge blowout, and then New Orleans is, you know, maybe they don't play the fourth quarter or something. But I'm going to get a bunch of Luka tonight. There's no question about that. This one has a 214 total. Again, I don't think that's right. I know Dallas paces down, but seriously. Kristaps in the lineup, 7,100. I like the price tag, 1.16 fantasy points per minute. I don't trust whether he's going to play more than 3 minutes before he decides his pinky toe hurts and has to take 2 weeks off. It's tough. It's tough with that guy. He doesn't, it just comes off as he doesn't like to play basketball, or at least his body doesn't like to play basketball. Maybe his mind is there, but he's sort of worthless, 2 out of every 20 nights. It's like, I missed out on Porzingis. What are you supposed to do? Jalen Brunson's a guy I like, 1 fantasy point per minute guy, but he was in the starting lineup for a while, and now he's not. 5.2x value so far. 28.3 minutes per game, 28.43 fantasy points per game, so exactly 1 fantasy point per minute, basically. I'm not going to get to a lot of Brunson tonight, just because he's not in the starting lineup. I guess it depends. I'll take a closer look at rotations before I build, and just see maybe he's getting more minutes off the bench than I think. I don't know. Tim Hardaway gets nearly 32 minutes, the same amount of minutes as DFS. 24 fantasy points per game, 0.76. It's not inspiring. DFS, 0.67, not inspiring. Dwight Powell, 0.78, not inspiring. I like Kleber if he plays. 4,100, but 18 minutes is not 18.8 minutes is not good enough. I mean, you've got to expect Kleber to get like 26, 27 minutes if he's going to produce at numbers that are actually going to be helpful for you. But Reggie Bullock right now getting 20 minutes. Some of those minutes, in my opinion, need to be spread out a little better. Willie Cauley-Stein's only getting 11 minutes. At this point, I mean, just give those minutes to Kleber. Feel good about it. I don't care. I know he's injured. I know he's probably not playing. I'm just saying when that happens, something to look at. They're going to have trouble. Dallas is going to have trouble with Dwight Powell being there starting big. I like Boban, of course, off the bench, but 7 minutes a game is nothing to even talk about. He's kind of more of a novelty. We all love him. We know he can play a little. How long can he play for? I don't know. Either way, get a bunch of Luka. That's the lesson here. Get a bunch of Luka. Let's look at New Orleans. And New Orleans injury report. Dalton Holmes, Herb Jones, listed as questionable day-to-day concussion. Well, let's check on Herb. He is listed in the starting lineup, but with a Q tag. Yeah, I don't know. He's not a huge performer anyway. Ingram, listed as day-to-day. Nothing for new information that I'm seeing. Zion, we know about. Listed as questionable. Decision won't be made until Monday's pregame shoot-around, which will be at 7:30 p.m. my time, well after lock. Yeah, that'll be tough. I may do some late swap in there. We'll see. But for me, if there's a Q tag and it's a game, like a true game time decision, then I'll just have to keep him out of my lineups for now. If those guys are out, Joe Val's the way to go on this. I mean, I like Alexander Walker a little bit, but Joe Val is Joe Val. I know it's really explanatory, right? Valanciunas, he's basically a pay-up guy, 8,500, 1.29 fantasy. All right, I'm back. I think I was gone for a second. dropping frames. I don't really know why. I don't like it, though. Hang with me. Hopefully that worked. Can you hear me? All right, well, no drop frames now, so then that's something to think about, I guess. I'm not sure exactly what happened there. But it is a bummer. It is a bummer. Internet connection issues for no reason. Everything's been working pretty well, so. Sorry, guys. Those are the kind of kinks we've been trying to work out this whole time. You know, why is it doing it? What do we do to keep it from doing it? You know, I think what ended up happening was like it switched to a the 2G network, and then you know there's devices and tons of people on it, and so it just started dropping frames. So I switched back. I don't know. All right, I think we're done there. 214 on the line on this one. I don't know. That's not great for me. Sorry, I get flustered sometimes when some of that kind of nonsense happens. All right, let's go back. Change games. We'll get this team added back in. Game. What is the next game? Miami at Denver. Oh, interesting. Interesting. I'll get some thoughts on this one already. Let's start with Denver. You know, Jokic, the MVP, 11,100. I think that's probably one of your higher pay-up options right now. Look at their injury report. Monte Morris, listed day-to-day. Let's see what it says, though. 34 minutes in Saturday's win. Well, it looks like he's got a Q tag, but it says probable. So we'll keep Monte in. Michael Porter Jr. hasn't performed very well. Yeah, I don't know. Porter Jr. not in the starting lineup, so don't look for him to play. Kankar and Jamal, of course, are out. Starting lineup, Monte Morris, Barton, Dozier, Gordon, Jokic. So in this one, I'm going to probably get a little more PJ Dozier than I want. I'm going to get a bunch of Jokic, too. He's another guy who can put up 100. It's not likely, but can he? Yeah. You don't want to miss that. Even at 11,100, you're going to want to get to 20% of Jokic. 1.67 fantasy points per minute. 53 fantasy points per game, you know. Porter, if he was playing, 0.79 per minute. Nothing worth talking about. Barton, I've gotten to some Barton, 0.95, 5.4x value. You can get to Barton and feel okay about it at 5,800. You know, his ceiling isn't like 60, but it's definitely mid-40s. You know, I think all you got to have out of him is 28 to get value. No, 31, sorry. Aaron Gordon, that's a guy I almost always fade. 0.82, you only need 28 from him. Man, I'm just like, goodness. Monte Morris starting, of course, but 0.66 doesn't do anything for me. Jermichael Green doing nothing for me. Jeff Green doing nothing for me. Bones Highland, if he got the minutes, but 14 minutes, what's the point of that? Same with Campazzo, 17.6. I mean, what are you supposed to do with that? Austin Rivers can't get time on this team. I mean, he's not that great, but, you know, you get what I mean. So I'm looking at Jokic. I'm looking at Will Barton. I'm pretty much fading everybody else on this team, especially in this matchup. Miami, you know who Miami is, defense-wise. Yeah, let's get Miami's injuries before I get ahead of myself again. Max Strus, Akpala, and Victor Oladipo. Lowry, Robinson, Butler, Tucker, Adebayo seems pretty standard for them. Jimmy Butler, I mean, here's a pay-up guy, 9,700, 45.6 fantasy points per game, 1.3 per minute. He's been in a lot of optimals this year. You got to get about you need him to just hit his average on fantasy points per game in order to hit value. I think it's doable. Adebayo at 8,400, that's doable. He's got a pretty high ceiling, getting up to 50 for sure. Against Jokic, you never know. That's tough. I'll get to a small amount, but definitely not a huge amount. Tyler Hero, you got to think of that, 6,400. This is a 1.02 fantasy point per guy, or per minute guy, 5x value. I mean, Kyle Lowry, same thing, basically a fantasy point per minute, 5x value. You're going to have to play those two guys. I mean, Lowry's ceiling is ridiculous. I mean, it's 31 fantasy points per game, but his ceiling is like 55. So, and for that price at 6,200, you got to feel pretty good about, getting to a guy who used to be 9,000 all the time. He's got the ability. It's just a matter of can he do it. This game, I don't know. The 204.5 is the combined total, so you're not going to want to play 25 guys in this one. Maybe 2-3 players total. So, like, if I have to do that, I'm going to probably see like Jokic, probably not as much Barton, I guess, but probably Jokic, and then I'm going to get a little Butler and a little Hero, and then Adebayo and Lowry as a secondary if I need some big spots to be filled, and they just happen to fit. But for the most part, that's it. That's it on this one. Defensive craziness. Maybe you can rack up the points in stocks and blah. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm losing my voice, guys, so my already weird voice is already getting weirder. Next game, Atlanta Golden State. Oh, maybe this one, 222.5. That's a little bit better as a pace up. Man, I got all the wrong things happening here. Let's go to game. Let's get rid of Miami and Denver. There we go. Let's go to Atlanta. Atlanta injuries. Herder says probable for Wednesday. Okongwu we know about. Trae Young, Bogdan, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins with the P tag, so probable, and Clay Capella. So John Collins likely to play. He's not on the injury report as far as I can tell. Who knows? Keep your eyes on the news, guys. That's where this matters. So you got to keep your eyes on the news. Trae Young, we know who he is. We know what he can do. 1.19 fantasy points per minute, 4.9x value. $8,500 is a good price for him. 41.6 fantasy points. His usage is through the roof, 31.7. So you can feel okay about getting to some Trae, but are there pay up options that are going to get you more for similar money today? Then probably. The hard part with him again is his ceiling. You need less than his average for him to be a good value, but his ceiling, can he get there? He hasn't had huge ridiculousness yet. You need 50 or 60 from him if you're going to try to win a GPP. Will he get it? I don't know. I like the price tag. John Collins, 6,800. I love that price tag. 1.13 fantasy points per minute, 5.12x value on average. So he's the only player on Atlanta that's averaging 5x value or higher. You got to get some John Collins. I don't care about the matchup at this point. I realize it's a pace-up matchup with Golden State. They're playing crazy defense and yada, yada, yada. But you can feel good about getting some John Collins. There's still 240 minutes to go around here. So 1.13 fantasy points per minute. You get to some Collins. Not 50%, but feel good about 20. I like Capella here too, honestly. 6,300, 1.07 fantasy points. But okay, is there blowout potential? From a team. Atlanta was in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. Golden State's the best team in the league right now, percentage-wise, win percentage-wise. But is there blowout potential here? Yeah, if Trae has an off shooting night, for sure there could be a blowout potential here. It's not likely. But, you can you can wonder. You're still going to have to get to some Trae. I'm going to get to some Trae. I'm going to get to some Collins. I'll get a little bit of Capella. Bogdanovich is $4,800. He has not inspired with 0.74 per minute. Cam Reddish is a guy you love to love, but it doesn't really produce at 0.87 per minute. Hunter in the starting lineup, 0.62 is ridiculous. I'd say swap him out, put Herder back in the starting lineup, then at least give Herder the chance to hit some shots. He's averaging more per minute, but 9 less minutes. So that's tough. That's all going to be totally dependent. Who goes down, who gets foul trouble, all the stuff. You know that in the Golden State game there'll be foul trouble. So, is what it is. Let's look at Golden State. Okay, already there. Perfect. Steph Curry, I almost never get him, but $9,800. Another one of these pay-up guys with huge ceilings for under 10K. 45.3 fantasy points per game on 1.36 fantasy points per minute. You're going to need to get to some Steph. Draymond, same thing. 7,300 is a good price. A 1.08 fantasy points per minute guy. Now, here's a guy, Jordan Poole. Well, first let's look at the injury reports because I'm always getting ahead of myself. Porter, rest. Draymond listed as questionable day to day. He's in the starting lineup though, so we'll see. Of course, Wiseman and Thompson we know about. Curry, Poole, Wiggins, Green, Looney. That's what the standard lineup has been. So that's what's listed as of right now. That game doesn't start till 9 p.m. Central. So late night hammer, sort of like the not even. There's later games today. Wow, a bunch of late games. Jordan Poole's been going a little bananas. It's like at $6,000. I don't know what to tell you on Jordan Poole. He's a guy that's kind of hit and miss. So I'll probably get to some. 1.02 fantasy points per minute so far. 4.85x value is number one on the team for anybody that gets any real minutes. B Elite's value's up there. No, it's actually not. Sorry, I was looking at something else. So yeah, Poole's value as far as 4.85x value is first on the team. A lot of people like Wiggins, but 0.87 is uninspiring. I won't get to him. Gary Payton's 10 minutes is worthless to me. Not a lot to like here. I mean, you get to Steph, get to way less Draymond, and then, get to some Poole if you have to. People like him. I get it. Just not my bag. Okay, Phoenix at Sacramento. 226.5 sounds fun. That sounds fun to me. Is there blowout potential? I mean, the chance is there. I mean, Sacramento's not a great team. And Phoenix is kind of pretty good defensively, so there is blowout potential. There is. Devin Booker at 8,500. I love that price tag at 1.21 fantasy points per minute. He's not 70 point scorer anymore, but averages 40 fantasy points per game. You only need 41 to hit value. Chris Paul, 8,300. I like that price tag. 42.7 fantasy points per game, 1.31 fantasy points per minute. He's the only guy on the team averaging 5x value or better, 5.15x value. You can feel good about playing Chris Paul if you're, well, in my opinion, $8,300 for 43 fantasy points that's pretty good. You got to feel good about it. Actually, here I am skipping injury reports again. Why not, right? DeAndre Ayton still listed as day-to-day. Listed as doubtful, so the downgrade in status has not come as a surprise. Is today Monday? Yeah, so Ayton's out, you guys. Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, JaVale McGee. So Ayton's out. See what happens when I get ahead of myself? Skip over Ayton. So JaVale McGee's in, but he's not the super producer. 1.12 fantasy points per minute is great, but that's a lot of that is based on his 15 minutes. So I'm going to get to some Kaminsky and feel okay about it. I'm going to really want to fade JaVale McGee today. But I got to get some. Maybe think of those two guys as like contrarian plays to Drummond, who will be like 79 or 80% owned, like he was the other day. Saric is still injured. I think Jalen Smith is probably one of those guys who's not on the roster. Maybe he's down wherever their extra, their G League team is. But Crowder and Bridges, they might play a little small. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm going to have to keep an eye on this one because I might end up with a bunch of these Phoenix guys today. So keep an eye on the news as we get closer to lock. Granted, 9 p.m. Central, that's not inspiring as far as start time. But it is what it is. I'm probably going to get a bunch of Phoenix today. You should too. Okay. Let's look at Sacramento. There's going to be 2 or 3 players to talk about, but not much else. Tyrese Halliburton listed as questionable. Kings are on the second leg of a back-to-back, meaning they won't have a shoot-around, so Halliburton will essentially be a game-time call. If he's not able to go, look for Davion Mitchell or Buddy Hield to get the start. Terrence Davis could be more in the rotation. Starting lineup, De'Aaron Fox, Halliburton, Harkless, Barnes, Rashawn Holmes. Halliburton with the Q tag, so keep your eye on your news because we don't know. I feel like in that matchup, maybe they'll just save. It's super tough. I don't know because they're kind of, I don't know if they're in the same division, but they're out there in the same direction. Harry Barnes, 7,400. He's your most expensive player, or tied for most expensive on this team. 1.04 fantasy points per game, 5.2x value. Gotta like that. His usage is kind of low. De'Aaron Fox, same price, 2 less minutes, 5 less fantasy points, 0.95, much higher usage. For obvious reasons, as a point guard, 4.5x value. You can get to those guys a little. I mean, you're not going to play tons of this team today. Like if you do, like it's going to be because of injury, because Halliburton's out, and then you're going to get to some extra, like it said, Terrence Davis or Davion Mitchell, and feel okay about it. Healed is one of these there's a bunch of guys that are real close to a fantasy point per minute on this team that you can feel good about getting to at some of these prices. Alex Len doesn't play enough, but from there up, Mitchell at 4,800, 27 minutes a game lately. 0.75 though, it's not great. So maybe it's there and up. I don't know, you guys. I don't love the matchup versus Phoenix, so I'll get to some of these guys in low percentages, but you can feel good about kind of just skirting around some of these players. I'd play more Phoenix than Sac for today, for sure. Although, 226.5 total. I don't know, maybe you want to go bananas on that one. I just don't trust it. Charlotte at Lakers has a 227 total, so that's fun. Let's start with PJ Washington. Only on the injury report for Charlotte. LaMelo, Rozier, Hayward, Bridges, Plumlee. Let's go and get them up here. Phoenix, add them back. Charlotte and Lakers up there. Okay. Charlotte. Okay. Okay. Looking at LaMelo Ball here. 8,700. I wish he was like 8,000 personally, but 30.4 minutes. I wish that was higher. 40.94 fantasy points per game is great. 28% usage is good. Doesn't hit value. 1.35 fantasy points per minute is good. I mean, there's good things to like about LaMelo. It's just a matter of what the lineup, the matchup looks like. How's he going to do tonight? I think he's going to have a good game. I'm going to feel good about getting to some LaMelo Ball. There's a good total on this thing. Miles Bridges, 8,300. Lakers are slight favorites. Bridges, 8,300. This guy is like number one candidate right now for most improved. In my mind, 1.19 fantasy point per game, 5.13x value, 42.6, 36 minutes, $8,300. That could be 10-3, and you could feel good about it. So play a bunch of Bridges. Gordon Hayward, he's so hit and miss. I mean, his average 29.4, 0.85 is uninspiring. I'll get to a little bit of him because I know he can do it, but it's going to be similar to what I do with Rozier. I like his price better, similar minutes, way less product, 0.74. That can't continue, can it? Maybe we just didn't know who he was, and now you're just not going to get anything from him. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with him. I like $5,300. I like that as a value play. I don't know if I can trust that production, at least so far this season, a 0.74. Now, we're 8 or 9 games in, 10 games maybe somewhere. I don't know, but you can't. I have a hard time with it until I start seeing real production. So get to Terry Rozier if you feel it, but I don't know. I like Mason Plumlee for the same price, 0.92. He's starting. Sure, he gets less minutes, but 0.92, he's actually averaging more fantasy points per game than Terry. His ceiling is lower, yeah, for sure. For sure. Against Anthony Davis, it is what it is. But feel free. I mean, I'm going to get 12% of him or something. Cody Martin, I'll get 10% of or less just because he's been kind of skirting around the optimal weirdly. It's so weird. Oubre's a guy who has just crazy ability but hasn't really produced yet. 27 minutes per game, 0.82 per minute. It is what it is. It is what it is. Like I say that a lot, but that's all I got. So play some LaMelo Ball, play more Miles Bridges than anybody else in this team. Squeak in some Rozier and Plumlee if you want. Cody Martin's just a feeling. I just don't know. You got to get a little of him. Let's look at the Lake Show. It's like the Flake Show. I don't know. That's stupid. Sorry I said that. I shouldn't have said that. I'm so, ridiculous. Not because of the Lakers, just because it was dumb. All right. The injury report should be pretty long here. Anthony Davis, questionable. He's got a listed as probable now. LeBron out. Kendrick Nunn out. Wayne Ellington out. THT out. Trevor Ariza old. Starting lineup, Westbrook, Bradley, Bazemore, Anthony Davis with the P tag, and DeAndre Jordan, who's worthless. Anthony Davis is 10-6. I mean, 47 fantasy points per game, 1.42 fantasy points per minute, almost a 30 usage. It's interesting to look at the usage rates between Anthony Davis and LeBron and Russell because they're all almost identical, 29.1, 29.3, 29.5. It's interesting. It's interesting. Anthony Davis has a higher ceiling of 61. You got to get 49 out of him. Will you get it in this matchup? Yeah, I think you got a good shot at it. So you're going to need a bunch of Anthony Davis. I mean, I hope so. He might sneeze too hard and miss 10 days or something, but it is what it is. I still like Rusty's price tag at 9,400. Man, his ceiling again is ridiculous, especially with no LeBron. Plus 35 minutes, 40 fantasy points per game, 1.15 fantasy points per minute on a 29.5 usage, which is definitely higher when LeBron's off the floor. I could popcorn machine you that, but I'm not gonna. You can feel good about Carmelo at 0.96. His price tag 6,300 is higher than I want it, but you can get a little bit of him just in case he goes bananas, and he might. Avery Bradley and Kent Bazemore are not going to go bananas because they're horrible. I mean, they're just terrible. I don't care. They're not good. They're not good. I'm talking about DFS. Relax, but they're not good at basketball either. That just is what it is. Bazemore just has never produced 0.58 fantasy points per minute is horrible and ridiculous. People go, oh, he's a defensive player. Okay, well, where are the stocks? If he's a defensive player, where are the stocks? 0.58, it still translates. 0.5, you can still get to 1 fantasy point per minute, if you're crazy at stocks and rebounds. DeAndre Jordan does it, 1.13 fantasy points per minute on 14.8 minutes. He still gets his. I mean, if he was getting way more minutes, maybe that would come down some. But Dwight Howard, 14 minutes, he still gets his fantasy points per minute at 1.03. Their values are terrible, of course, because of their minutes, you guys. Avery Bradley, 0.48. That might be the lowest fantasy points per minute total in all of DFS today. It's insane. And I just mean starting among starters. So, but he's a defender. Yeah, okay, he's a defender. Where are the stocks? Where are the rebounds? Where are the defensive stats that equal fantasy points? They do exist. 0.48 is not any of them. So, take it for what it's worth. I was a Laker fan for many years, but they're not my team. Not since Kobe retired. So, get some Anthony Davis, get some Westbrook, get a little Anthony, and go home. Or stay home, maybe. I don't know. You guys, we did it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 games today, really? I think I put it in the summary that it was 7 games, but I don't know. Sorry about the technical glitches today, too, you guys. That's annoying. Started dropping frames, and it was crazy. Since I switched networks, no problem. So, I don't know. Here's what it is. Right? I don't know. But, all right, well, I think that's pretty much it for today. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, you guys. Because I don't know. It makes me feel good about doing this, even though I'm going to do it anyway. Watch a bunch of basketball. Keep track of your scores. I got a bunch of crunches to do the next hour. And hopefully it turns out well for me. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Man, I really got to shave. It's insane. It's all right, guys. I got nothing else. It's like I'm sort of hot, sort of ready to turn a fan on or open the door, or take my DFS sweatshirt off. I don't know. But all right. Peace, love, or cycle. For whatever that's worth. I used to say that when I was a kid all the time, but I'm not anymore. So anyway,